Borralho made a bonehead call out again. His call out of Dricus Du Plessis was a bonehead move, and that is according to Alexander. Now, Alexander that wrote this, I appreciated his opinion, but I wish he would have furthered that, because there is a test if your call out works. And there's an actual test. There is a science behind it. It's not an opinion. An opinion would be, did you like it? But that's not what we're discussing, whether you liked it. It was a bonehead move, which means did it work? And the test, simply, step number one is you get a response, right? Here, let me get you from A to Z, and maybe another time we'll connect the dots. Step one is that you get a response. That would be A, and then Z is you get the fight. So if you didn't get a response, no, it did not work. We can't get to letter B, right? We can't get to the second. We have to start with that. If you didn't get the fight, or rather if you did, then everything was great. There's no discussion here. But what are some of the in-betweens? What are some of the letters between A to Z? Well, it being talked about, of course, right? You're not going to get from a guy responding to about agreement without it being talked about. And here we are. Alexander wrote a piece. And I want to know why he called it a bonehead move. Borralho is not going to get that fight. But what that really means, right, it's the same as when a parent tells his kid no. No doesn't mean no. It means not right now. And you got to understand that concept. I firmly believe in calling somebody that you can get. I firmly believe in that. But if I was to expand upon that, that's once you're a known commodity, right? This was the B-side of a main event on free TV against a 40-year-old. I mean, like, there was a lot of moving parts here. I want to be very respectful of Borralho. I truly do. I'm not looking to be my usual jerk of a self. Not in the least. In fact, I'm defending him. But I will also admit for you, I don't know if Borralho is his first name, his last name, the city that he's from, a nickname. I don't know. So he plays by different rules, right? If he wants to call out Dricus Du Plessis and get Alexander to write a piece on it, get old Chael to speak about it. I heard Daniel Cormier early today talking on it. Daniel also didn't love the call out because he can't get with Dricus, but what you may not understand, you got to start somewhere. Nobody gets a title fight that they don't call for. And so now the question is, well, when do I call for it? Is it only a brilliant move as opposed to a bonehead move if I get it next? Why do I have to get it next? And see, here's one of the pieces of this, okay? It's very important that you call somebody out. I agree. It is a massive miss when you don't. It is also a massive miss when you are indecisive. Like if you come in and you throw a few names out, you've now achieved nothing. Believe me, understand these things very well, but I will share with you, there's another reason you got to call somebody out. And that reason is if you don't, when you're a main event guy, you just beat number 5, you might flop and become number 5. That would seem a little bit zealous to me, but 1 week ago they did it with Dan Hooker. They took him from 12 to 5 just because he beat 5. That is not the way it is supposed to work, but I'm sharing with you, if it works this week the way that it did last week, he will now be number 5, not to mention he was in a main event. Nothing in this business matters more than your card placement. Nothing. Your ranking isn't remotely close to as important as your card placement. Where do you go when you're a main event, right? You understand the word promotion, right? That's not just a word we throw out. It actually means something. It means to go forward. It means more. It means you're for it. Pro. You understand linguistics? I'm not trying to be a dick, but do you understand that? So once you win in a main event, you don't go down, just by definition. You're not a main event winner, and in your next fight, you're not a main event. So the biggest problem that Borralho could run into is that someone else call him out. That's the other thing that you're trying to avoid. He's trying to call somebody, and in Alexander's mind over at, I think this is mania.com, he believes he called for Dricus, which he is not yet ready for, and therefore it is a bonehead move. And I got to remind you, he's got to go that away. And he just took out number 5. That means he's got 4 options, none of which are better than the other one. Chimaev and Whitaker, who are already tied up and busy, Izzy, who could be doing anything, including never fighting again, and then you've got Sean Strickland and Dricus. Like, there's just not a lot of options. And it's not a situation of don't call for anybody. That would be the biggest miss. So when you call for a guy that you're not going to get, which, by the way, doesn't mean you're not going to get, it just means not now. One of the reasons you've got to do it, and he's got to be a guy going that way. If you don't, and you come to number 5, and all those names I just told you are busy, and all of a sudden you get a guy like Bo Nickel that comes and calls you out, that's what you don't want. You do not want a hammer you do not want Brendan Allen's dance card to be empty. And all of a sudden he's coming for you. That's why you got to call someone out. That's why you always got to talk and move in that direction. If a guy was ever to call somebody out lower than him, he would get the fight instantly, but he would also be teased, which is wrong. You should always want the most money against the easiest opponent, or you fight the champion. There is no in between. So, Caio, who didn't know what to do, Caio Borralho, he didn't know what to do in that moment. He hadn't been in that moment. He hadn't closed out a show before. He hadn't beat a number 5 guy. He hadn't knocked somebody down. He hadn't gone 25 minutes. He wasn't the last word before they fade to black and roll the credits. He didn't know what to do. So in that moment, he, as opposed to calling out nobody, did go in the right direction, which was forward. But there's also the one of going in the other direction and calling out a guy underneath you, if you believe in the rankings. If you believe the rankings are right, you're going to be number 5. Of course you'd want to fight number 8. Of course you'd want to fight number 11. But guys' minds don't work that way. And I would just be curious, okay, I've laid out my case for why it was a good idea that Borralho did this. Alexander called it a bonehead move. I would like to hear what his case for that statement is.